like that. Just gonna slowly and lightly kind of go around my shoulder, work out something circular in shape. Now you notice how I don't draw one circle then call it quits. Well, I know that I can't draw a perfect circle. The good news is I don't need a perfect circle, but I am trying to make the best one that I can. So once more, don't worry about anything perfect, just do your best. Once you've got something circular, you're going to, lightly with your pencil, kind of draw this curved vertical line through your circle, like this. And then you're going to, lightly still, draw this horizontal line through the middle of your circle as well, something kind of like this. Now, clearly what I have, doesn't look anything like Stitch. Well, good news, it's not supposed to look anything like Stitch yet. The circle is there to give us an idea for the size of Stitch's head. The vertical line will let us know where the left and the right side of his face is going to go. The horizontal line, well, that will help me make sure the parts and pieces of his face end up in the right spot. So I haven't actually started to draw Stitch yet, but those three things, the circle and the two lines, they're gonna help me as I start to draw my Stitch. And that's what I'm gonna do next. Not actually draw Stitch, but just start to draw Stitch, meaning I want to get an idea of what the parts and pieces of Stitch are going to look like, size and shape-wise, before I actually start to draw him. And that way, if I make like an ear twice as big as the other, why figure that out now? I'm not actually going to draw it, I just want to figure out the size and shape. First thing I'm going to do is here, at the horizontal line where it meets up with the vertical, so for me, right about here, I'm going to lightly draw this big circle, this big egg oval shape, something like this. Gives me an idea for where I'm going to put Stitch's nose. And then next to where I plan to put the nose, still above this horizontal line, I lightly am going to draw these big kind of raindrop, teardrop, something shapes like this, one on the right and one on the left. Gives me an idea for where I'm going to put Stitch's eyes. So something very light like that. And then what I'm going to do is, down here in the bottom half of my circle, I lightly still, I'm just going to draw this big kind of bowl U shape, something like this. Gives me an idea for where I'm going to put Stitch's open mouth. So already I have an idea for what Stitch's head is going to look like. Nose, eyes, mouth. Not really too much detail, but use your imagination. You can kind of see Stitch in what we just put together. However, what I need to do next is this, everything above the horizontal line, at least this part of the circle, I need to kind of extend it, bring it out just a little bit more. Because the strange thing about Stitch's head is it's more like a big gumdrop, okay? It's wider than a circle, so I just want to bring it out a little bit at the top. Because coming up from these little corners that I just made by extending the top half of my circle, I need to lightly draw these big kind of capital D shapes facing away from my circle, something like this. This gives me an idea for the size and the shape of Stitch's ears. And then in the right ear and the left ear, I'm just going to quickly put these little triangles inside of those big D shapes because Stitch is going to have these cuts in his ears. But now I take a step back and take a look at everything that I just put together. As I said before, I haven't actually started to draw my Stitch, but I've very lightly given myself kind of a guide map, a plan, a blueprint for what the size, shape, and basic look of my Stitch is going to be. Take a look at what you just lightly made. Do you like the size and shape of your drawing of Stitch? Is there anything about it that you want to change? You think your ears might be too big? Is your nose too small? Do you not like what his eyes are going to look like? This is again where we like to make all the mistakes with the size and shape, because none of this is a final part of the drawing. We can still change anything and it's not going to come back to haunt us. So okay, what I have, not perfect, but not bad. I'm going to use what I got, start to draw my Stitch. And the first thing I'm going to work on is going to be his nose. What I do is, in the bottom corners of his nose, I first lightly just going to kind of draw these hooks, these J shapes, these curves at the bottom corners like that. And then kind of draw this big smile between them. Again, I do this very lightly. This gives me an idea for where I'm going to put Stitch's nostrils. Because then, if I like what I have, and only if you like what you have, you can then start to trace it over, darken it in, but bring the nostrils up underneath themselves to kind of seal them up, like that. So that's the bottom half of Stitch. To make the top half, well, I just trace over and darken in what's left of that big egg, oval, circle, whatever shape that I already made. So something like this. So there's my Stitch nose. Now, to the sides of the nose, I need to work on those big raindrop, teardrop looking eyes. However, those aren't exactly Stitch's eyes because he's got these big light patches of fur that go around his eyes. Obviously Stitch is blue, but the part of fur around his eye is a lighter shade of blue than the rest of his body. This is that lighter shade of blue. So I don't really need to trace over, darken in the whole thing. I just need to trace over some of it so people can at least have the idea that there's something different about this section of fur than the rest of his face. So I, again, just trace over some of it, not all, but some of it, just so people know there's something up with it. Then above those big patches of fur that I just made, I'm going to draw these kind of hills, these frowns, these curved lines, kind of redrawing the top of the fur, right above the fur, something like this. And what I'm making there isn't exactly an eyebrow because, well, Stitch's entire body is covered with fur. You can't really see an eyebrow. So we give him this thick patch of skin above his eye, which is like an eyebrow without actually giving him one. But I'm going to leave this the top half of my Stitch alone. Now I'm going to move my way down, start working on his big open mouth. First thing I'm going to do is trace over, darken in just the top half of the mouth, something like this. Because coming down from that top half of the mouth, I need to start to make some of his, well, teeth, obviously. And here's the weird thing about Stitch's teeth. I've seen him drawn with different, numbers of teeth in, well, different drawings. Sometimes I see him with 10 teeth at the top and 10 teeth at the bottom. Sometimes I see pictures of Stitch with 8 teeth at the top and 10 teeth at the bottom. Heck, that big poster I have of Stitch over there, if you look closely at it at the end of the class, that Stitch that's colored on the bottom, he's got this single individual 11th tooth at the bottom and 8 teeth at the top. So I honestly have no idea how many teeth he's supposed to have, but I can tell you, you can have anywhere between 8 to 11 teeth coming up or coming down from his mouth. I'm lazy, so I'm just going to make 8 teeth at the top. The only rule for the teeth is, yes, he's got sharp teeth, but we don't like to make Stitch look dangerous. So what we're going to do is we're going to make his teeth kind of like candy corn. They're, yes, kind of sharp looking, but they're very rounded, very soft. You want to give it that nice, gentle, rounded edge to the teeth. So again, they look sharp, but they don't look dangerous, okay? So I just very lightly kind of work out where these teeth are going to go and about how big they're going to be. Because then if I like what I have, then I'll trace over and darken in what I put together. I'm not concerned with making anything perfect, but just trying to work out something like what I want. So there's at least the first top row of teeth. Then I'm going to trace over, darken in where the bottom of his mouth is going to be. I do this after the teeth, just in case I have any of the mouth that's getting covered up like the teeth, by the teeth, like I have over here. But here in the bottom half, well, I need to give him, like I said, some of those, well, bottom rows of teeth. I'm going to just kind of suggest the top of the teeth down here. So I'm just going to make these little kind of hills, these curved lines, for where the teeth are down here. Just so, again, people know that they're there, but I'm not going to go into detail. But here, inside his mouth, behind all of those teeth, well, I need to give him his tongue. And I'm going to figure this out lightly at first. Behind all those teeth, again, very lightly, I draw this big kind of Donald Duck hat, this big 2 capital C shapes facing one another, this big jelly bean of whatever shape inside of his mouth. Because, once I do that lightly, I'll trace over, darken in the parts which aren't getting covered up by his teeth. Because why do I care about any part of the tongue or anything that's getting covered up by something else? So there's his tongue behind all those teeth. And good job. If you have something on your paper which looks remotely similar to what I have up here, you've done what I think is the hardest part of drawing Stitch. His mouth, all those teeth, and everything like that. Now we're going to move over, start working on this, his big right ear. Now, like I said with the teeth, I can't use any straight lines or sharp corners on my Stitch. I want to make sure everything's very soft and very rounded. So I can't use this straight line here. I'm going to make something that's a lot more like this S shape in the Hollywood Studios logo, where it's going to be a curved line, which curves one way, like this, before curving the other direction, like that. Then I round off at the top, because again, I don't want that sharp corner. And then as I start to trace over and darken in the fat, wide, rounded part of the D, all the way down to the bum, remember that cut, that triangle shape I made in the ear? Well, I'm going to trace over, darken it in, like this, to make that cut in the ear. So there's half of my ear, the inside half. Now, from one side of the ear to Stitch's head, I'm just going to make another curved line, something like this, to kind of suggest the back of the ear. And then I'll just make another little curve down here at the bottom for, well, a suggestion of the bottom of the ear. And now what I need to do is start working on the rest of the outside of his head. So first thing I need to do is, well, work on the bottom. Here's the thing about the bottom of Stitch's head. Stitch doesn't really have a neck. So that circle I made at the beginning, well, I can't really use this for the bottom of his head, because just like I did with the mouth, see how the mouth kind of goes in a little bit? I need to do something similar for the bottom of his head. So I'm just going to very lightly kind of redraw the left side of my Stitch head, kind of bring it in like I did the mouth. I can use the circle in the bottom right, I just couldn't use it over on the left. So I again am very lightly working out what the bottom half of my Stitch is going to look like. Just drawing line on top of line until I get something I think looks okay. Don't worry too much about what your drawing looks like, because again, you can just keep on drawing until you get something you think looks pretty good. Even if you're not 100% happy with it, just keep on drawing until you get something you think looks okay. So again, what I have, I'm not happy with it, but it's the right idea. So first, coming down from this, the left non-eyebrow, that big patch of skin, well, I'm going to start to trace over and darken in the parts of Stitch's head that I want everybody to see. Because again, it doesn't matter how many of those lines I've made over on the left side, as long as I can make the one on top the darkest, that's what's going to stand out. So there's the left and the bottom of my Stitch. And when it comes to the top, first thing I do is this right non-eyebrow, the patch of skin, I'm going to have it come down and have it land on Stitch's ear to kind of seal that area up. But when it comes to the top of his head, well, I'm going to give you a choice. You can just trace over, darken in what's left of the top of his head. Or what I like to do is, here at the top center, I like to make these kind of rounded triangles, these shark fins, these frowns, these hills, something like that up there, just to suggest some hair up at the top of his head. Then I'll trace over and darken in what's left of that circle to make the top of his head. Okay, so there's my right ear, there's Stitch's head. Now I need to worry about the left ear, which I pretty much make by doing what I did over on the right, over on the left. A long, single, stretched out S shape for one half of the ear. I round it off at the top, like so. And then kind of making this triangle shape for the inside of the ear, like this. And then trace over, darken in the fat, wide, rounded part of the D, all the way, kind of disappear behind Stitch's head. Then, again, a curved line to suggest the back of the ear, here. And then another single little curve down at the bottom for, well, suggestion of the inside of the ear. Okay, so there's, for the most part, all of Stitch's head, face, and all that. But now, to really bring them to life, I need to go back into these big egg, oval, raindrop, teardrop, whatever shapes. Need to start working on those eyes, his actual eyes, which is pretty much a big raindrop, teardrop itself. But the nice thing about Stitch's eyes is you can really do anything you want here as long as it's this raindrop, teardrop looking shape. If you want his eyes to be big, you can do something like this. If you want his eyes very thin, narrow, you can do something like this. This just means he's more wide-eyed. This means he's squinting or angry. Again, you can do really anything that you want. I usually like to make it seem like my Stitch is pretty wide-eyed just because I think it makes him look a little bit more, a little bit more friendly. So of course, start to make those big raindrop, egg drop, whatever shape eyes. But then I'm going to, with the side of my pencil, shade in, darken in those big pupils, big eyes, which I just made. I'm going to shade in those nostrils I gave him for his nose. And I'll also shade in, darken in what little of his mouth is not getting covered up by the tongue or the teeth or anything like that. And then also right above his nose, I just draw 3 little curved lines just to suggest some wrinkles up there. But the last thing that you want to do with anything that you ever draw is somewhere on the paper you always want to sign your work. You could even date your work. Today is the 29th of December. Now we got about a minute or so left on the camera before it turns off automatically and my class officially ends. But in case you have someplace to be, reservations, fast passes, anything like that you need to get to, I am opening up the exit doors for you in the back right of the theater. Now, they of course lead back out to the park, but remember the drawings, hopefully on the paper, well, they are yours to take home with you. It's a free souvenir from us to you. Pencils, we kind of need those for the next class. So take the paper, but do please leave the pencils. So once again, everybody, I want to say thanks very much for stopping by. My name is Ryan, and of course, enjoy the rest of your time here today.